This morning, the Virginia Supreme Court threw out the new congressional map that voters there passed last month. The map would have given Democrats an edge in 4 House districts heading into the midterms. All of this comes just one day after Tennessee Republicans blew apart the state's last Democratic seat by slicing up Memphis. Before we get into more of these dirty details, your 2 cents, Cenk.
Yeah, so guys, I'm gonna go off on 2 things here. One is this terrible ruling by the Virginia Supreme Court, so obviously corrupt to help Republicans win. I'll explain why and the nuances behind it. And then the second thing I wanna explain to you guys is how gerrymandering stole our democracy. And while everybody's, oh, watch out for Donald Trump, which you should have, we said that too. But mainstream media doesn't tell you to watch out for this, which has actually completely robbed you of your vote all across the country. Now let's explain why. Go ahead.
So Virginia is ground zero for today, the news of the day. It's a big one. The 4-3 decision, the state's top court ruled that legislative Democrats did not follow proper procedure when they rushed their redistricting referendum to the ballot. So the 4-3 decision means that the map used by Virginia in the 2024 elections will be used later this year. The now overturned map would have likely resulted in a 10-1 split of the delegation in favor of Democrats. Virginia Justice D. Arthur Kelsey said Democrats submitted the proposed amendment to voters, quote, in an unprecedented manner that violated state law. Bottom line here, Virginia will use its old map, as we said, 2024 this November. The map currently splits the delegation 6 Democrats to 5 Republicans. The new map would have made it 10-1, as we said, in favor of Democrats. The voters passed this measure by just an overwhelming margin, more than 100,000 votes in April. And it was backed by Governor Abigail Spanberger. Former President Obama was putting out statements on this, social media and the airways, tens of millions in Democratic spending. And now all for naught, it's gone. Trump took a victory lap on Truth Social this morning. Let's show you that. Huge win for the Republican Party in America, in Virginia. The Virginia Supreme Court has just struck down the Democrats' horrible gerrymander, Make America Great Again, President Donald J. Trump. So this was the biggest prize Democrats had on the board in the national redistricting fight. That's why it hurt so much. The NRCC, which funded the legal challenge, called the ruling a win against what they said was a corrupt scheme to rig the map. Democratic House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who promised a maximum warfare everywhere, all the time, redistricting agenda after the referendum passed, is not this evening conceding. Here's what Jeffries says: we're exploring all options to overturn this shocking decision, no matter what it takes. House Democrats will win in November so we can help rescue this nation from the extremism being unleashed by Donald Trump and Republicans. The Virginia Attorney General Jay Jones says his team is evaluating every legal pathway forward, but with primaries bearing down, look, they're gonna run out of time here. It's not on their side, Cenk. We'll get to Tennessee, but give us, I guess, a zoom out view here nationally. Politico is reporting that in a maximalist scenario here, Republicans could net more than 10 seats from these redrawn lines alone. Texas up to 5, Florida 4. The late April Supreme Court decision, as we said, gutting the Voting Rights Act, has opened the door for even more southern states to redraw as they love to do.
Yeah, so let's start broad and go narrower to Virginia. So I despise gerrymandering. It robs of us of our democracy 100%, because it's the old line about instead of the voters picking their politicians, the politicians pick their voters. They draw up these districts called like dragon districts, and they weave all around the state in nonsensical ways because they're trying to cherry pick the voters that'll allow them to win the most amount of seats. Now I say the Republicans do it in red states, the Democrats do it in blue states. I despise it when both parties do it. Now, in this case, why are we even talking about this? The redistricting happens at the end of decades, right? So it happens every 10 years after the census. But Trump decided, no, I don't care about any of that. I'm going to just do something unprecedented. I want you to redistrict right now in the middle of the decade. Well, if we go with that precedent, every new president that comes in is going to say, no, I demand redistricting. So every 4 years we're going to redistrict, and then if that doesn't work, every 2 years, every 6 months, and all of it, an effort to make sure your voice doesn't matter at all. They just want to remove the voters out of the equation so they could just play patty cakes with the donor class and serve the powerful and screw over every average American. And it doesn't matter which party you're in. They're robbing you of your vote in the blue states and the red states. So now we turn to Virginia. So if you're a Democrat, you should hate gerrymandering just a smidge more. But don't get it twisted. You think that blue states don't do it? The Democrats definitely do it. So it's not like their hands are clean. But I get it when Trump and the Republican Party says we are now going to cheat. We're going to do it in the middle of the decade, and we're only going to gerrymander the red states so we have an unfair advantage. Then it forces the Democrats today to strike back. But when you strike back, it's not like you liberate anyone. You actually take away the votes of the people in your state. So it's just disgusting in every way. But the Republicans always win in these fights. Why? Because they're willing to play dirty, which brings us to Virginia. So Virginia does a ballot initiative. It was actually close, 52-48. But their voters in Virginia said, let's redistrict, okay? And then the Virginia Supreme Court, largely picked by Republicans, complicated way that they picked the Supreme Court in Virginia, but bottom line is the Republicans were in charge. So the majority of the justices appointed by Republicans, and look at that, 4-3, the Republicans win this case. Now, when I first saw it, I thought, that's interesting. They're saying that the redistricting and all of this, and the ballot measure kind of happened in the middle of an election, and that's why it was against procedure. And I thought, well, that could make sense. I get it. Like if, for example, the voting has started right now and they say, no, let's redistrict now. You go, whoa, no. People already voted in the old district. You crazy? You can't redistrict in the middle of things. So I thought maybe there's some legitimate reason to vote in this way. So I read further into it and you find out, no. It turns out that Virginia has a super complicated way of doing ballot measures that could on issues like this, and you have to vote 2 different legislative sessions, and there can't be any voting in the middle, okay? And so it has nothing to do with the redistricting today and the voting today. It has to do with something that happened in 2025. It is, bottom line is it's a technicality. There was nothing that made you that was unfair about the way that it was done. And to give you a sense of how dirty the Virginia Supreme Court is and how much they cheated on behalf of Republicans, they said, plus it violates a 1902 law. You were supposed to nail the bill onto the door of the legislature and you didn't do that. Okay, so you're freaking cheating, I got it. That's nonsense, utter nonsense, okay? So they're like, yeah, we're gonna cheat. And so we're gonna redistrict in Tennessee, we're gonna redistrict in Texas and Florida and everywhere else. And when the Democrats try to redistrict in Virginia to strike back, we're just gonna use our dirty justices to block it. Oh, you didn't nail it to the door. Get the hell out of here, man. I mean, why don't you just say we're lying, we're cheating, we're not real justices. That's a ballot measure. The people voted on it. In fact, in Virginia, that's your only recourse for democracy, right? Hey, we would like to redistrict right now. And they're like, shut up. You're not allowed to redistrict. Only the Republicans are allowed to redistrict. You're gonna be forced into a non-democracy. But we just voted on a ballot measure. It doesn't get any more political than that. Political issue is a potential way to defeat that in the courts, etc. Nothing in this democracy should be cherished more than the direct votes of the voters. And a conservative Supreme Court in Virginia said, screw the voters as we always do. We prefer the powerful, we prefer the Republican Party, and we prefer oppression. So that's what they did in Virginia. So finally, what are we gonna do here? Well, Sharon, it looks like there isn't anything we can do. They're just gonna, they're gonna win this one. And so yeah, we can appeal, but it's the same dirty court. We're gonna lose. So they're gonna pick up a whole bunch of seats in these states. Now, at the same time, they're in such disastrous shape, they might lose Congress anyway, but they're at maximum tilt on cheating. And it looks like, as usual, the Democrats are gonna sing, there was nothing we could do, there was nothing we could do. And to be fair to them on this one, there wasn't much they could do.
No. And when you speak to camera and talk about how it's as if this court is just saying we're cheating, we're lying, it is like they're saying that flat out. They might as well say that flat out. If they're relying on something from 1902, flimsy, to overtake the will of the voters, then it's like giving them the middle finger, and it's happening in other states too.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.